All right, everybody, what is up? Welcome back to another discussion here on my channel. I'm your host, Vash. I got Brolylegs joining me once again.
What's up, everyone?
Yeah, say what's up, Broly. Good. Unfortunately, Goss can't join us. He didn't. I think he's watching it tomorrow or something like that, so he wasn't able to watch it. And we just decided that he'll definitely be on the Doctor Strange one whenever we watch that. But yeah, we just got finished watching The Batman. We saw it in an IMAX theater. We decided to go the extra mile here and just kind of, get a little bit more, hype built up around the event for us. It's been a bit. I mean, not a crazy amount since we've been back to Gotham because we got Joker, and Joker was a phenomenal movie, starring Joaquin Phoenix. So. We did get The Batman with Robert Pattinson, and I'm gonna go ahead and just toss it to Broly, and we're gonna start off by just, did you like the movie?
I love the movie. I'm a huge Batman fan. I've watched them since I was a kid. The first one I saw was '89 Batman with Michael Keaton, and I've never missed Batman ever since. He's been my go-to comic book hero. Before the Marvel, before MCU, anything like that, it was always Batman. So I'm a huge fan, and really know his story really well. And I just enjoy this movie from top to bottom. Cast was really good. I had my reservations about casting of Batman. They've been changing him quite a lot these last few years, and I wasn't really sure of Robert Pattinson. I know he's been doing amazing work as of late. His latest one, Lighthouse, with Willem Dafoe, was really good. And just a great film. I really enjoyed it. I left pretty happy.
Cool. For me, I feel about the same. I think throughout the entirety of the movie, I was thoroughly entertained. I thought the action sequences were really great. There is one car scene there. It's like a chase that happens. It's in the trailer as well, and that one got a little hectic. There was a lot of blur. It was at night. It was raining. They were going really fast, and there was a lot of like blur going on, panning the camera back and forth between Penguin and Batman. But besides that, all the action sequences were really cool, really well choreographed, and very believable. There was a lot of moments where it's not like most action movies where you've got a horde of like eight guys around the main hero, and five of them are hanging back, not trying to attack until it's their turn. And in this movie, they didn't really do that. It was a brawl for the most part, and Batman kind of carried himself really well. And I have to say that his armor in this movie was the most durable I've ever seen Batman's armor be. He took so much abuse from bullets left and right, machine guns, shotguns, everything you can think of. And he would get back up from them. So I'm sure he's super thankful for whoever the fuck designed that damn costume for him. I mean, I guess it would be him or Alfred. I'm not sure. They don't really get into too much about that. But yeah, so small little nitpicks here and there when it comes to the action of the movie. But I just really enjoyed it. I thought the dialogue between characters was really good. I thought that the detective and the mystery behind Riddler and what he's doing and all the different puzzles that he's giving Batman throughout the movie, I thought they were really well done. And I really like the movie. I could see myself watching this again. I think out the gate I can kind of say I liked it better than Batman Begins. I guess we can kind of just go into the play-by-play a bit. Maybe talk about a couple of standout moments. I like starting off with what we liked about the movie. And so again, I'm tossing it to you, Brawley, and you can tell me what was something in the movie that really stood out to you, or like maybe a scene or a character interaction or plot device that was being placed. What's something that stood out to you? And just forewarning for those listening now, or if you're watching this on YouTube, this is a spoiler discussion, so it's kind of like, free reign. So if you don't want spoilers, then now is the time to click away, or come back and watch it whenever you are done watching the movie. But yeah, Broly, go ahead.
Well, first off, I really just enjoyed the performances by all these characters. Specifically the Riddler. Paul Dano's amazing. Love him in any movie he's in. He just knows how to play that kind of quirky, character that just plays on his words and exaggerates a lot, and full of mystery. Selena Kyle was really, really good. There are some nitpicks of her character that we'll get into, but I thought overall that she did pretty well for herself, and her fight scenes were really cool, and what she brought to the story was really, really cool. But yeah, I think that the story really shines the most with the whole detective work. It's almost like a duo. It's like a buddy cop kind of movie with Batman and Commissioner. Well, he's not Commissioner yet. But Gordon's in this, and they're just kind of like tracking down who this guy is, and is trying to figure out, who is the Riddler and who's going to be targeted next. And at the same time, Kyle's kind of like working with him to figure out something else. That's kind of part of Riddler's plan, but not really. She has her own little arc that she's dealing with. And yeah, it's really, a story of, like, don't let try to cleanse the past. And we all know Gotham is corrupted, and we all know that it's crimes, taking over the city and stuff like that. And it's just a big story about what Batman means to the city. He's still learning. Like, the crazy thing is that this is year 2 of him being Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get a lot of glimpses of that in the movie, of him kind of like a hero in training, sort of, right? Like, he knows what he's doing, but he's also like still learning some things. Like, there was a moment where he had to, jump off a roof and kind of glide, and he crash landed out of it, and it was just kind of like, it's like if it was his first time doing that kind of stunt. So that part is really cool. I really enjoyed that. I really thought it was a neat little little element to the story that kind of got us a glimpse. It's not an origin story. There's still a lot of questions of how this started, but I think me and Vash agreed when we were getting into the theater. We're like, we don't want another origin story, because I just feel like we've gotten so many of those that we wanted something, cemented.
Yeah, in the opening sequence, like, as a small whisper, I leaned over to Broly and I was like, "Time to watch Mom and Dad die again."
Yeah,
and that's usually how I feel about Spider-Man movies too. We get the same sort of story over and over and over. It's because we keep getting new actors playing these characters over and over and over.
Right.
But yeah, surprisingly, a lot of that is kind of pushed to the side, and a lot of questions that you might have about Batman's training, or Selena Kyle's training, or how what villains are running amok already in town in this second year of him being Batman. A lot of that kind of gets pushed away. They don't really capitalize on any of that. They mainly focus on the here and now, and they give you little breadcrumbs of knowing where Bruce is at when it comes to his ability as
well. This almost feels like this is the second movie of the trilogy. That's how it kind of feels. There should have been something before this, and I'll kind of like explain why I think that, because it gets tied to the ending. But it's what it kind of feels like. It's like, okay, we all know who the characters are. Here's the story. Go. We're kind of like, all right, I guess.
But yeah, for me, I think, like I mentioned before, the standout moments and the thing that made me like the movie the most is the cunning style of how clues and riddles were being solved, and also the suspense of what's gonna happen with the next victim that Riddler sets up for Batman to conquer. All the different moments in the movie that involve the Riddler doing something, they all have these letters that say "to the Batman," and it's a bit of a curveball how things play out when it comes to Riddler interacting with Batman directly, and trying to get his attention with those notes that he was leaving on people. Excuse me, that he was leaving on people. Um, but yeah, I really liked the patterns that Batman would understand from the notes that were left, or the riddles that were being told directly to that one hostage in the funeral scene. All of that was really well done, and then like I said, yeah, the oh, I didn't even mention this, but something that I really liked is the theme, the Batman's theme in this movie. I really liked it. I thought it nailed what it needed to do. It had that leitmotif like standing power where I heard it and I knew that it was supposed to be like Batman, being supreme in the scene or whatever. And
yeah, like a symbol of vengeance, pretty much.
yeah, a symbol of vengeance sort of styled song that would play whenever he was doing something or after he had just accomplished something badass. And
Right.
and yeah, I think those the soundtrack, the fight scenes, and the puzzle solving were all there, and it was just such a nice breath of fresh air that the villain wasn't someone that could beat Batman physically. It was more so someone that was challenging him as here's a kind of loony and different approach to causing mayhem and havoc in the town. And what are you going to do, Batman? But the curveball, and so to jump ahead a bit, the curveball is that Riddler was, in his own mind, he was convincing himself that Batman was his companion throughout all this. He basically says to Batman like, "Oh yeah, without you, I couldn't have got Falcone out in the light, and without you, I couldn't have entered the iceberg lounge. Like, you were my missing piece. I had all the puzzle pieces. You were the missing piece to bring it all together, and we were doing this together." And Batman's like, "No, you're crazy." and so yeah, I think jumping over, I can kick off what was probably the weakest parts of the movie for me. And this was something that I feel like a lot of people probably had problems with when they saw the trailers, and myself included, and it kind of came to fruition. But Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne himself is not the Bruce Wayne that we know from the animated series or the comics or anything. Like, maybe some comic runs it could be more in line with that, but the Bruce Wayne, the philanthropist, playboy, millionaire, knows all these languages and has all this money, and he's so confident, and all this other stuff that Bruce Wayne's known to be. You don't find that in this movie. He's basically Batman. Well, that's the whole thing about Batman is Bruce Wayne. That's his real face. He puts on the mask, but that's really who he is. He's Batman. But throughout this whole movie, that's basically what we get. We just get Bruce Wayne, Batman, and he's in Batman mode at all times. He's thinking about what to do with Gotham. He's thinking about the people around him and who he trusts and who he's questioning. And there's so much brooding and sort of like just overly serious Bruce Wayne throughout the whole movie, because he's a broken guy. Like, after his parents dying as a young age, he sees comparisons with this one kid. The mayor's kid ends up becoming an orphan because his dad dies, and yeah, that was probably the weakest part for me, is that we don't get any sort of realism in Bruce Wayne doing Bruce Wayne stuff. And it's mainly just, I wear the cape and you're never going to see me sleep, and you're never going to see me do anything other than trying to solve this mystery at all times. And for the most part, that's usually not a complaint. A lot of people are like, "Oh man, I've already been watching this movie and we haven't seen him in the suit for 60% of it," and like people have that complaint. But this one was kind of like, give me a little bit. I just wanted a little bit of let him show face, let him buy some restaurant or whatever, let him show that he has no suspicion on him for being Batman, and that wasn't in this movie. So that was probably a big low point for me. And another one is, it's not a complete low point, but it's something that I just didn't really. I felt like they could have done better. Was just Catwoman's scenes and her interactions in the world in Gotham. Doesn't really play into Catwoman. Like it's just Selena Kyle, and she has the getup. She has like this weird ski mask that she cut a hole in to be her hat, her mask or whatever. But there's nothing that's told or nothing that's said about her that makes us believe that she's the peak of human flexibility and acrobatic and thievery. We only get one scene where she's robbing a safe and she has all this like tool set and stuff like that. But besides that, she's basically a piece of the Batman's puzzle where he uses her to gain information, and she's just walking around as Selena Kyle at that point. So Catwoman kind of just felt like she was there to give a dynamic and for Batman to learn, which he does. By the end of the movie, he does find his place of how he feels about her and the decision that he makes about how he's going to move forward with all of that. But it was just unfortunate. We only had one scene where Catwoman had the whip, and she used it once. And I think even her trinkets, like the cat trops and the ball and string accessory that she has, she didn't use any of those either. So a bit unfortunate there. But what about you, Broly?
I think my only big complaint, to be honest, I mean, I can understand the Bruce Wayne thing. I think the only thing I would say about that is that because it's year 2, and I think the main thing is the story is he's trying to find what his purpose is in the city. I think in the beginning he believes he has to be Batman and he's just gonna fight. And he even says at the beginning of the movie, he's like, to Alfred, he's like, I don't care what happens. Like, I don't care if I die. And like, I think he doesn't understand what his value is as Bruce Wayne to the city can be. Mm-hmm. And I think by the end of this, he learns. Like, maybe I don't know if he'll like instantly start throwing his money, but I think he probably knows I have to be Bruce Wayne too, and this is how we're gonna fight.
Yeah, we do get a throwaway line from. I mean, I guess not really a throwaway line, but we do get a moment where the current mayor is being, there's a campaign going on for who's going to be mayor, and it's this woman versus this man, and the guy ends up getting killed at the beginning of the movie by Riddler, and so she basically wins. But she, at the funeral scene, she comes up to Bruce Wayne, and she's like, oh, your family has been known to do this, and that, and you've kind of not been doing that, and I think you can do better. And it's funny because, anybody could be like, it's my money, I can do it. I don't have to help the town.
Yeah,
right?
the line delivery was just bad.
Yeah, the line delivery was weird.
It didn't make me feel anything about like, oh yeah, he deserved it. She just kind of like demands it. Yeah. Like not in a weird, not in like in an evil way or a bad way. It was just kind of like shame on you kind of thing. And it's like,
yeah, it was like a very direct like shame on you.
Yeah. No, I agree. I thought it was very weird. But going to like the only part that I hated, I don't want to say hate. There's nothing that I hated about this. The only thing a low point for me was the third act of this movie.
100%. Yeah.
I thought the ending of this was really messy. It was really
messy. You said?
Yeah, messy. I'm sorry. I think the movie was like toward the end was a little messy. And we'll get into details in a bit. I don't want to go like super detailed about what we're gonna explain, but just to give like an example, or just to kind of understand where I'm coming from, is like they're trying to tie up on so many things, and it's like whatever happened in the beginning of the third act should have been the end of the third act, and it was just kind of weird, like how everything was resolved. And like I kind of understand, like from a director's point of view, of like, okay, we want the ending to be Batman understands his purpose, and like that I understand, but like they sacrificed like how convoluted it was, and just like you're kind of just left still like for like 10 minutes, kind of like, okay, like is this the ending? And there's just a lot of like symbolism at the end. And it just kind of just felt weird and very like it lacked compared to like some endings in other movies where there's a big fall, or the villain gets captured, or Batman saves the day, or whatever, right? Like that, those climactic endings are really cool. This didn't really have a climactic ending.
Yeah, and in this one, it's you have to you have to understand that when I think the director took the idea of, oh, we have the Riddler, and obviously he's not a physical villain for Batman to fight, so we need him to have a plan, and then have another plan, and then have a plan, and have a plan. And so the ending it feels really weird, because in the trailers you have the scene where the Riddler gets caught in the diner. He puts his hands up, and the police officers show up and they take him away. And in my mind, before the movie came out, and when I was thinking about that specific scene, I was like, oh, it's probably going to be a decoy. It's probably going to be someone who's pretending to be the Riddler. And
or he's going to get out of jail.
Yeah, or he's going to get out, or he's going to be like, oh yeah, you guys can take me, but you got nothing on me. You can't keep me in jail. Something like that. But instead, and when I'm watching the movie, I thought it was going to be one of Riddler's followers, because we do find out in this movie that the Riddler has a bit of a following online, because he makes all these videos. He's a little, yeah. There's one section where he literally was like a streamer, and he gets up, he turns on the camera, and he's like, "Hey, I want to say I'm so thankful for this community, and you guys, we're gonna we're pioneers of this new cleanse of Gotham," and it was just so funny. I was like, "Oh, look at my streamer up here." But yeah, I think that scene that we got in the trailer was essentially what happened. Riddler was sitting in the diner after getting away from attempting to shoot. He ends up shooting Falcone, and he runs away. But then there's some lady that sees, oh, someone ran from that building, and they're in the diner right now, and that's how the police get a tip of where he's at, and then they apprehend him. And then that's like the beginning of Act 3. At that point, you're like, oh, we caught Riddler, Falcone's dead. Selena Kyle kind of got her moment of confronting her father, and you're like, okay, things are wrapping up. But no, literally from that moment, Batman's doing a little bit more snooping around the Riddler's base, and finds more stuff going on. He finds a bat that's hanging in one of the little bird cages, a rat cage that's there. And underneath the bat is another note. And then they're like, oh, the Riddler wants to talk to you. And he goes to the jail cell. That's where we get the scene from the trailer where he's yelling at the glass and he's like punching it. And basically the Riddler's like, well, yeah, you caught me. And there's a bit of like, they're trying to trick the audience into thinking that the Riddler knows who who Batman is. And Batman thinks it too. Batman sees all of the signs in his base, and he's like, oh, he fucking knows. And he tells Jim, he's like, oh, you're a good cop. And it's kind of like a little bit of a goodbye. He kind of feels like Batman's going to get unmasked at this point. But no, like the Riddler's just talking behind the window. And he was just like, oh, I know the real you, Batman. And the real you is someone who's like my accomplice, like someone who's like my companion throughout all of this. And then you can see in Batman's face, he's kind of like, oh, I was about to fucking confess to you thinking, because he kept saying Bruce Wayne, but he was using Bruce Wayne as a metaphor for like, the privilege and people who let things go by without doing anything about the orphans or the problems in Gotham and stuff like that. And so all of that goes down, and then he's like, yeah, I have 7 trucks with bombs scattered along the coastline of Gotham, and I'm gonna flood the city. So it literally becomes like an Arkham game where the city's underwater and everything's just gone to shit, and the main villain's behind bars, but the city's getting messed up by the water, and Riddler's henchmen, his followers, they're gathering at the main central point of the city where it's the safest from the water, and they're trying to kill the current mayor, which was that woman from the funeral scene. Her name's leaving me. I'm not too sure. I don't remember her name.
It was Alice. It was
Yeah,
like her Alice.
something like that. But yeah. So the third act is honestly it brings it down a couple points for me because the third act it does feel messy and it's not as satisfying as you would want, given how good the first two acts are with building action, building action, building action to finding out who Riddler was. Was there anything you wanted to add from all that, bro?
I mean, the ending was just weird. They dramatized a lot of weird things, like Batman was, took a shotgun to the chest, and he was kind of fading in and out, and it looked like he was gonna die. And then he pumped adrenaline into him, so that he could, because someone was attacking Catwoman, so she kind of went in. He went in there and helped her out, and then like they dramatized. There was like a rope that was, or a cable, a live wire cable. The water was rising, so it was kind of like about to like electrocute everybody, and so he like jumped on the rope and cut it, and it made it seem like, oh, he's falling to his death in the water, or he's gonna get electricity.
Yeah, there was like a song that played. It went to like slow mo for a second, and he's just like dangling there, and he brings the little bat emblem up, and he cuts the rope, and it's like, I don't know what they were trying to accomplish with that. I think it was just more so just trying to
like, do we believe he was gonna electrocute?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to hammer down like to the people around him. You're trying to hammer down the thought, oh look, he went through all that and he's still going, and I don't know if it landed with me.
They should have shown the people. They should have shown people's faces or something. Like, look at the mayor looking at him. Like it was just so weird. Like he sets up a flare gun or like a flare, and like it's dark and he's letting the people trapped like in the stadium or whatever.
Yeah, the stadium debris that like collapsed on them. He basically is like making a walkway for them to.
Basically, he's showing himself as a symbol that he's a hero to those people. That he's not just a crime fighter. He's not a vigilante. He's a hero. He's the one that keeps them safe.
Yeah.
And the people are supposed to trust him, right? Like that's what they want to do, is have faith in Batman. And it's just dumb because they don't really show people. Like they show it toward the end, when the helicopters are picking up people, they're kind of showing them here and there. But it's just like, to me, it wasn't enough. It wasn't something that I'm just like, ooh, like look at them, look at the crowd. Like they're not cheering for Batman. They're kind of just like caught in the middle. They're just like, whatever, right? Like this guy's helping me, cool. And that's it. And it's just it's tough because the story throughout was so good, and the fight scenes are so good, and the detective work is so good. Like I loved every bit of it, and then it's just like that third act was just kind of like, like if I could just change some things, it'd be a 10 out of 10, right?
Yeah. The thing that I would change is definitely the diner Riddler would have been a decoy. Just a very devoted follower, taking the fall for him at that moment. And when Batman goes and meets him at the prison, he tells him like, "You don't even," because even when they apprehend him, they're like, "Oh, which one is you?" They pull out his ID, and it's like two different versions of different names or whatever. So like. He could have just said something at the prison, been like, "Oh, do you really think you could have caught me that easy? You think I'm that dumb, detective?" Well, something like that, or just to kind of give another twist as to like, no, he's still out there, he's still orchestrating this thing, and the path that they went was that Riddler is, because Riddler is mentally unstable. All the villains are in this universe. But they went like they really harkened down on the fact that he is just very demented and just not all there when it comes to processing grief and stuff. And yeah, so that's like the bulk of it. That's our pros and cons. If there other things that I wanted to touch on was, so the main storyline is Batman is doing his thing, fighting crime. He actually has a bunch of ledgers talking about all of his different escapades, and when he closes the book at the beginning of the movie, it says year 2. So that's how we know how far along we are. And the first murder happens on Halloween, which is the mayor, the current mayor that was trying to get reelected. And I think the way things play out is that you find out piece by piece that the Riddler is just trying to remove Gotham of all of its lies. And all of the people that you look up to, all of the people who are in power, all of the people who are mobsters, are all into this huge lie about this charitable donation that the Wayne family made 10 years ago or more. Yeah, they donated $1 billion to a charity fund for the orphanage and for it was called the Renewal Act, where they were trying to renew Gotham and breathe life into it with money, basically. And the movie walks you through person to person and saying the police are corrupt, Falcone is corrupt, the DEA is corrupt. Like, all these people who are supposed to be fighting for justice and for the good of Gotham are all greedy motherfuckers, and they're just trying to get their piece of the pie. And all of it stems from the foundation that Thomas Wayne had initiated or whatever. That was based off of a murder that Falcone carried out for Thomas Wayne, and that's supposed to be a big moment in the movie. It's like, oh, you find out that Bruce Wayne's dad wasn't a good person. He actually got a reporter killed because he was going to report that Martha wasn't mentally stable, and she was in the asylum multiple times. And that was another part of the movie that was a little weird. Batman, again, unsure of himself, still fairly new Batman, and dealing with trauma with his family and his upbringing, and trying to make something out of his family's legacy. He's being told that his dad basically got some guy killed for the greater good of their image and their fortune. And Brawl, you want to explain how things unfold from there?
Yeah. So the history is Falcone, who's a mobster in the city. It's Falcone, and there's Salvatore. We don't really get to see Salvatore in this movie, just mainly Falcone. So Falcone was injured when he was young and went to the Wayne's house, and Thomas Wayne saved his life. So it's kind of like an issue that Batman's always had, but like basically that's how they know each other, the Waynes and the Falcones and whatever. So when Thomas Wayne was going for mayor, a reporter was basically snooping around and saying, found out that Martha had her parents, her mother killed her father and killed herself, so she had to go through a lot of therapy and through the asylum, and he didn't want that to go out, so he basically asked Falcone to take care of it, right? And so the way Falcone tells Bruce made it seem like, oh, your dad kind of told me to kill this guy. But when Alfred wakes up from this bombing attack at the place, because the Riddler wanted to get rid of Bruce Wayne, he basically told Bruce, like, no, like, your father, his mistake was going to Falcone, but your father just wanted him to be scared. He didn't want him to get killed. He never ordered him to get killed. So that's just Falcone doing things so that he could, take a, like,
he basically wanted leverage over Thomas Wayne. He's like, oh, I'm gonna help you with this reporter guy that's giving you some problems. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and kill him. And so Thomas Wayne didn't like that.
The biggest problem or the issue for Bruce is that this might have been a reason why his parents got killed.
Yeah.
Because Salvatore Maroni probably thought, oh, you know what? Thomas Wayne's going to have Falcone's back. Let's go kill Thomas Wayne. And the truth of the matter is that Falcone might have been the one to get Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, it's all speculation. They do leave it up in the air. They're saying, "Oh, I don't know for sure," but it does seem that Falcone killed the reporter, and Thomas Wayne didn't like that. He was going to go to the authorities, and then that same night he gets shot. and so it
Right.
makes it believe that Falcone was like, oh well, if I'm gonna go down for this, then I'm just gonna kill them and silence them. But
Right.
then even Alfred says it could have been just some random schmuck on the road who wanted some money. I don't know for sure, and so it's kind of left in the air. But that was something that was a little weird because also Alfred is another thing that's really interesting in this movie. Alfred was basically non-existent in this movie. He had like two scenes, one of which he gets blown up. He doesn't die, but there's a bomb that is delivered to the Wayne mansion, and he throws it last second, and it kind of knocks him out, knocks him unconscious, and he has to be in bed in a hospital somewhere. But that was kind of the interesting thing was Bruce Wayne was at his bedside, and as Alfred wakes up, Alfred looks over at Bruce, and he's just like smiling. He's like, oh wow, he's here. And then Bruce is like, how could you not tell me for years? Like the first thing he says to him is like, how could you lie to me for all those years? Like you knew my father got somebody killed and blah blah. And even before then, Alfred was trying to tell Bruce Wayne to chill out. You're gonna get yourself killed. And Bruce is like, you're not my dad. Like don't tell me what to do. And so that's what I mean is that the Bruce Wayne aspect of this movie is very it's on a one track. He doesn't have the finesse, and he doesn't have the confidence that Bruce Wayne has, that we've known Bruce Wayne to have. That's something that just it was lacking for me, because you need that duality to show just how messed up Bruce is on the inside, because he goes out and he's Batman because that's what gives him closure with himself in a way. But if you have Bruce Wayne acting the exact same way, then it's kind of like there's no duality, and there's no sort of like double life struggles other than his love life. Like that's the double life struggles, I guess. But but yeah, I'm trying to think over the movie if there was anything else that stuck out to me. Like I said, like Broly said, the actor who plays the Riddler, I felt like did an amazing job at being both manipulative with his wording and how he treated people, but he also put a little bit of a twist on being very just kind of like rowdy as a Riddler. Like he would breathe really hard, he would kind of act like very loopy and move the camera around whenever his eyes would open up really wide.
He was a loose cannon.
Yeah, he was kind of like a loose cannon kind of. Instead of it being like a very sophisticated and I'm better than you and I'm smarter than you Riddler, it was more of just like, oh haha, like you're in my game now and you're gonna love this one, and it was just kind of a little bit more rowdy than what we're used to. But I didn't mind it. I thought he did a great job. I don't think it was. There was a moment where I was like, "Oh, he's trying too hard," or he's acting like very zany just to fulfill that. Oh, he's so interesting because he's weird. It was. He did a good job, and I think just the only problem that I had with the Riddler was just how they handled him being in prison at the beginning of the third act, and that he was basically removed from the film at that point. Other than setting off the bombs because he had that pre-plan. Was there anything that you wanted to point out, Broly, before we go into our final verdicts and stuff?
Well, two things. One, Penguin does show up in this movie. He's just kind of sprinkled around in this show. He's basically like the right-hand man of Falcone. He runs the club basically, and like Matt said, there was a chase scene involving him, and Batman catches him and stuff, but he's never really brought to justice. It was so weird. He gets arrested maybe 2 to 3 times, and you always see him afterwards, fine. Yeah. He's always getting away with things or whatever. But I thought, I think it was Colin Farrell or Colin Firth. I don't remember which one. I think it's Colin Farrell.
I think it's Colin Farrell. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did him pretty cool. It's a little bit different. It's not the European style or the British style of not very Danny DeVito like, but he's still it was okay. Like I didn't mind the change. There's changes to these characters like that. If you're used to the old style or you're used to what you think Catwoman should be or what you think the Riddler should be or Penguin should be, they're different. They still hold their roles, but there's just little twists, little tweaks to the characters. But it's not enough to where it's like, oh, they're really changing these characters.
Mhm.
I thought Penguin was cool. And like I said, he's just sprinkled in, and it's like just some bad guy. He's just a bad guy, nothing crazy. He was never gonna be that guy, like that Batman's like super hunting.
Yeah,
Penguin's
Penguin's always gonna be like the means to an end when it comes to the big baddie or the big plot device.
Yeah.
He's the in between man. He moves the cargo. He wants not the hugest amount of money, but he wants the right amount of money where he's comfortable. And I do think that there was moments in the movie where I'm like, okay, why are they just leaving him there? Why aren't they taking him to jail? Why aren't they doing this? Like, even if you remove the fact that in that moment he's not doing anything, to put him in jail, he literally caused a huge fucking accident. He literally, he probably killed a couple people driving through all that shit.
There's reason to believe they should have caught him, but
yeah,
it's just part of the story because there's bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, it pans out to that where Jim and Batman have him cornered under a bridge somewhere, and then they're like, well, let's just leave him there, and it doesn't really make sense. But the last two things I want to bring up is the Batmobile. While it was cool, it just felt like, let's take a Mustang and just customize it. Put a little fire on the back. The Batmobile didn't really have anything to it. There were no gadgets. There was no computer. There was no anything that gave it any extra flair other than it looked cool. And there was only that one scene that it was in, so it's nothing crazy, anyways. And then also the other thing I want to bring up is Jim Gordon, the actor that plays him. He's been in a lot of stuff, and I think he did a great job in this movie too. It was a lot of the same that I've seen him in other movies personally. But it fit the bill. He was a very dedicated cop. He went the extra mile. But the problem that I have with him is the same problem that I have with Selina and Batman and a lot of the characters in this movie, is that we get one side of the story at all times. We don't get Jim going home to his family. We don't get Jim being off the clock or Jim not at the station or whatever. It's always go, I'm working, and Batman's always like,
the film was filmed like in a week.
Yeah,
like from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie is a week, and it's like he was in the same clothes.
Yeah,
the whole time. That's how it felt.
It just felt like it was a continuous, like, it's like if I was watching an episode of 24 where it was just a continuous, like, oh, okay, it's 9 o'clock, we're doing this, it's 10 o'clock, we're doing this, and then the day would change, but it would still feel like, okay, it's 11 o'clock, we're doing this. And that was something that I just felt like was missing in the movie. But even then, the movie's long as hell. Whenever we get to the point where Riddler's in prison, you're like, wait, this shit's still going, and it kept going and it kept going. And Broly and I both we decided long ago. I love long movies. Like, whenever I commit to going to the theater, I don't really give a shit how long the movie is. You just gotta make the most out of that time that you're taking from me. And I felt like while this movie was long, I honestly did walk away from it being like, they could have shaved off some time. It didn't need to be that long. And and then especially with the fact that we were missing out on a lot of side stuff like that I mentioned. But I guess the final topic that I want to say before we go into our rating, let's talk about the biggest reason, the biggest thing about this movie is Robert Pattinson as Batman. Like, what do you think? Do you think that he nailed it? Do you think that he could have done better? Do you think what do you think? How do you feel about all that?
It's kind of hard because you think about Batman that had like that one movie and that's it. I feel like it's never enough to really, judge a character or judge an actor on how he does. I thought for this film, his Batman was good. To me, the bar is the Batman from the animated series. Like, I feel like that's the bar. If you can play that Batman, I know it's a cartoon. I know it's animated. I know it's easy to just make them whatever and have the voice actor, and that's it, right? The action you're drawing and all this stuff. So I'm not really judging it based on his choreography or anything like that. I'm just, seeing him when I see him in a scene. Do I think, okay, that's Batman? I'm gonna have to say, yeah, I can see it. I think he did good. I think he did a good job as playing Batman, as understanding fear, the fight scenes he did. When he's beating up on a bad guy, it seems like it's real. It seems like he knows the city somewhat. The gadgets he had to pull out for certain parts were really cool. Like, he just knew how to escape certain areas and all that stuff. Like, it was good. He played a really good Batman. Bruce Wayne, no, but I think it's part of the story. I think if there's a second movie, then I think that'll be where we'll judge him. Because to me, I didn't really mind it too much, because I look at the last few films of Batman, and Batfleck, like, when do you don't really get enough Batman feel. I feel with Ben Affleck, it's so much Bruce Wayne, and it's so much like, I'm old and I'm just here, I have a lot of money, let's do it. Like, that was kind of like that was always off-putting to me. But that's an older version of Batman. This is a younger version. This is year 2, so I can understand. Like, he's just out there running himself ragged, being the superhero. That's it. That's all he's trying to do. And so I can understand why there was not enough Bruce Wayne. So I could give it a pass. So I think Robert Pattinson did a good job, for sure.
Yeah, when it comes to me, I feel like, especially in the opening act, like the opening scenes where you get him doing stuff and him explaining, what his sigil in the sky is for, and what it means to the villains of Gotham and stuff. I already out the gate, I was like, okay, this feels awesome, and especially that scene in the subway where he beats up all those guys. Like, it just felt like I was watching a scene of Arkham Origins or something. And I think overall his performance with solving stuff felt a little one-sided. I want to sit here and say it's a super intellectual guy, and we see a lot of his kind of training himself throughout the movie when it comes to how to get better and how to craft his work here as Batman. And I don't know if he develops it or if it's just something that happened to come across him at some point. But there is a technology that he showcases in the movie where it's contact lenses that he wears that are basically like cameras. So everything, like facial recognition stuff, and then also he records every single moment of his nights out. And then he goes back, when he gets back to the Batcave, he watches it all and he writes it down. And he says, like, this is what I did and I got to improve myself here. And so he's basically taking notes as he's going out and putting the work, out there as Batman. Which is really cool, because that's what you need to establish where he's at in his process and how he's going to get better. And I thought the contact lenses being cameras was a really, really cool touch. We see it twice in the movie, at the beginning where he's overlooking his footage, and then and it's also a really cool way of him learning more than the police, because he also can look at stuff he might have overlooked when he was at the crime scene. He can look at a blood splatter on the floor, and then when he's back at the Batcave, he can look at that splatter again and be like, oh, it was caused from this, or oh, that probably got there from this weapon. And that was really cool. I think the parts where he suffered is definitely when he's Bruce Wayne talking to people. It just felt like if he was Batman talking to people. And then in small, very, very few moments where he is Batman, it didn't matter about how serious the scene was or how maybe they were just kind of like talking shop and they were trying to like figure out what to do next. He always had this like stance where his arms were out and he would move very, very slowly, and then he would like look slowly at Jim, and then he would look back over to this thing, and it was just kind of like he was always thinking with his body. And I don't know exactly if I liked it enough to where it was like, okay, this is something Batman would do. It just felt like more so him as an actor was like, you know what, let's make Batman be very studious of his surroundings at all times or something. And
I just felt like it's kind of like he's only there for his job, and that's it. Like he's not there to talk to that cop or whatever. Like no one's there. Like to him, no one's there. It's just him and the evidence and Gordon, and that's it. Like everyone else doesn't matter. Get out of my way.
Yeah, I guess it's just more so it just can't, like, sometimes it just came off as robotic, especially like that one scene where he's with the cop and the cop's just like, hey, you shouldn't be touching that stuff. He just like he's lifting the little bag, and then he slowly moves his head over, and you can even hear like the rubber from his outfit like kind of squeak as he's like looking over slowly. And then the guy's just like, okay. And then Batman goes back and starts doing more. And I just feel like, Batman's a smartass as well as a smartass, you know. So he could have had a little bit more quips here and there if he needed to. But that's just something that I hope to see in the next movie, if there is one. And judging off of what we got from the end of the movie, it feels like they're setting up for another movie. I'd be surprised if we don't get a second movie. For those of you wondering, there is not really a post-credit scene. You wait till all the credits roll, and then at the very end you get a green question mark, and then it says goodbye. And then there's like a flash of like random words that I'm sure someone's gonna decipher on YouTube, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I think the overall performance was good, and I want to see more of this Batman. I didn't walk away feeling like, man, he really fucked it up. I just feel like he needs to get more time to master this character. And that's how I feel mostly about a lot of different forms of media. Like whenever you give an actor the perfect example is Wanda, Scarlet Witch. The actress who plays her in Age of Ultron does not play her how she is in WandaVision or how she is in Endgame and stuff. That was multiple years of coming into that character and mastering the feel of Wanda. And if you go back and watch Ultron, and then if you watch Endgame or something, it's a huge leap in.
Well, I mean, time goes by,
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like a lot of people like to dog on the guy who played Quicksilver in Age of Ultron, but who knows how he would have been, a couple movies later. It's just we never get to know because he died.
No, what I'm saying is characters evolve. Like it's kind of like saying, like, I know you're saying the actor or actress, but they're playing the role of that's their first time playing the role.
Yeah, but
you have to understand, like if you look at Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man 1, not the same Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man and
Iron Man 3. So Tony Stark as a character, he evolves as time goes on. Yeah, and I understand year 2 Batman is going to be different from when he has a Robin with him and stuff.
Well, I mean, but what I'm saying is not just the character, it's the actors too, because I feel like maybe they know, hey, Scarlet Witch, I'm this badass, I guess, not a mutant, but basically an enhanced individual superhero that has all these powers, but they're just limited to what the writing or what the direction is. Like, you're not gonna get Scarlet Witch and try to be a focal point in an Avengers movie, with all these superheroes. So, like, when they get their standalone time, you'll get to see more of a progression, and losing the accent and stuff like that, and just getting used to Earth life, or life not as a villain or whatever, right? So I do know where you're coming from, and I do think that yeah, time will get some sort of evolution with Robert Pattinson as Batman, but it's kind of weird because this is where like in my mind I tend to try to compare them, Robert Pattinson's first time versus Michael Keaton's first time. And to me, it's like Michael Keaton nailed it and never left it, right? It just kept going.
Yeah.
Like those movies to me are just iconic. And even then, like I love Zoe Kravitz in the movie and I thought she did well, but I don't know if it was the writing of the film or her part or whatever, but she just didn't seem to me like it was Catwoman. She was a girl.
Yeah,
that
it was just
in the
Selena
middle of
Kyle. Selena Kyle
was
with
Selena
with
Kyle.
with some importance rather than it being
that had a
Catwoman.
bunch of cats in her apartment, and that was it. Like
Yeah.
there was, she mentions the cat and the bat. Oh, it has a nice ring to it, but there was no yeah, like there was no posturing, there was no posing as a cat. There was like she has some lines like, oh, I have 9 lives and stuff. But I mean, like to me, Michelle Pfeiffer's always gonna be the best Catwoman to me, right? It's an opinion, it's a matter of opinion, and no one's right or wrong. But it's just I look at that film and I'm like, that girl knows how to play Selena Kyle, and that girl knew how to play Catwoman. Like both of those roles, she knew how to play. And so I'm always trying to look for someone to do the same thing, where they could just be a cat, even though those lines are cheesy. But I feel like that's something that's missing in superhero movies, at least in the DC of now. Maybe I could be wrong, but like they just need to be a little more cheesy. Like don't try to be super serious all the time.
No, I don't know
Like,
about that. Like I can kind of see where you're coming from, but not really. Like I'm so tired. They do it in the animated movies still. I'm so tired of someone turning around.
Or whatever.
I'm so tired of someone turning around and Batman disappears and they're like, I hate when he does that. Like that happens so often, and I'm just like, no, like we don't need that shit anymore. And
what I mean is like kind of like the whole 9 lives thing, or like meow, hear me roar, or something like that. Things that are just kind of like whatever.
The thing is, I don't need lines like that. I need lines like Penguin saying like, oh, the little cat, couldn't land on her feet or something. Like that could be something that'd be tossed in, but not from the people that are the characters. I think if someone else is attacked, like if a thug is saying like, oh, look at the bat, I'm gonna clip your wings or something, that's fine. But if Batman's out here saying like,
no, I don't want Batman saying it. I don't want Batman saying it. I think Catwoman would have been fine because she's supposed to be really confident.
I would have been more fine if like Falcone made a cat joke, or if Penguin made a cat joke or something like that.
She was saying them. She just wasn't. I don't know.
Maybe
it was a costume. Maybe the costume wasn't doing it to me. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think she was bad. She wasn't a bad. Like I don't mind.
Just Catwoman as a character wasn't present. It was Selena Kyle. Like that's the end all for it. Yeah. But all right, we are gonna move into our final ratings. And then we can there's a small little bit of that I want to say before we finish it off. But go ahead, Broly. What do you think? Out of a 10, what would you give this?
Man, I'm a big Batman fan, and to me, this is kind of tied with the Bane movie, kind of there. Like I think Dark Knight's always gonna be number 1, and I think Batman Returns is always gonna be. I don't know, because I also like the Joker, but I think the Joker one was still like just because I think Jack Nicholson carried that movie so hard.
Don't compare. Like just the movie on its own. Like don't compare it to the other Batmans. Just
right. If I'm just
own.
watching this film, not comparing anything, I'd say a 7.5. 7.5 out of 10 is for me. I can't give it more than an 8. Because I love this movie. I'll watch this movie. I'll buy this movie. But I just think the ending really screwed it for being oh my god, this movie was amazing. That's my only big gripe. There's no nitpick. But I can get over nitpicks, right? The ending was just too screwed up for me.
Okay. Honestly, like I was teetering towards an 8. I feel like, if I watch this like 3 more times, I could really appreciate the car scene, the fight scenes, and like the music to make it at least an 8. But I definitely think a 7.5 feels better because there's a lot that can be improved. And but it's just rough because you say 7.5 and that's not something that people want to hear. That's like, oh great, like I'm gonna get excited for Batman. But it's because the thing is, the movie is good. Like it's a good, like the actors do a great job, and it's fun to watch. And it's I was very much invested throughout the entirety of it. It's just with how the ending flubbed, and with certain misses here and there on how Batman acted, that kind of brought it down a couple points for me. So yeah,
we're never gonna say go watch the movie. I will always tell anybody that asks me about the movie, go watch it.
Yeah, I would definitely say go watch it.
Yeah, definitely go watch it.
And well, there's 2 things I wanted to bring up before we end it. But the one, I really hope in the second movie, like now that he's coming into his own as Batman, and hopefully with the city being underwater, and with his newfound like understanding of the corruption in Gotham and the looting that's going on, and how his family wasn't, like his dad wasn't this asshole or whatever. I'm hoping that he shapes up and becomes more prominently Bruce Wayne. And also I hope they fix that, like his hair just doesn't match. Like his hairstyle doesn't, like there's purpose, like there's like 3 scenes in this movie where they purpose
from jail from this man.
Yeah, there's 3 different scenes in this movie where purposely, like I'm more than sure the fucking costume designer or whatever, they went and they combed his hair right over his eyes to make him look like, oh, I'm so like emo boy. And I'm just like, you don't need to do that as Bruce Wayne. Like, style his hair, like do the slick back that fucking Christian Bale had or something. I don't know, but the hair, I don't know why they decided to give him that hairstyle. It just doesn't look great whenever he removes the cowl. If I were to give it some reasoning, it's because they want us to realize that he's still young and he's still new to all this, so he's not really,
It's hard, man, because it's like you're supposed to believe, like, oh, he came from the training, and he came from the League of Shadows, and he should already know who he is, and doesn't need that kind of training. But it's just weird. Like, I agree.
Yeah, we have no clue on his training, and the only line that we get about anything about his ability to fight and stuff is Alfred was like, "Oh yeah, I can teach you to fight, but I can't, save you from what your family stuff and your the childhood past and all that." But the last thing that I want to talk about is there is one scene in the movie after everything's said and done. Batman's helping the survivors. The Riddler is in jail, and he's seeing on the news that Batman is being praised in some way as a savior or as a symbol of, a hero to the people. It's on the news, and the casters are giving him praise in a way. And Riddler is defeated in the prison. He's like kind of losing his mind. He's smacking the walls, and he's like,
he's just crying,
he's crying and moaning and just being like, "No, it's not supposed to be like this." And in the cell next to him, we have somebody who's saying like, "Hey, don't worry. Like, it's fine. You're still here, and Gotham loves a comeback story." And the world is filled with clowns and blah blah, and you get this like silhouette, and it kind of looks like some person with a face deformity, but his hair is like, it looks like a widow's peak in a way. It's very, very hard to make out what exactly who the character is, but they both start laughing towards the end of their statements, and so you're led to believe it's the Joker in the cell next to him. Because Riddler says, "Who are you?" And then he's like, "Oh, isn't that what isn't that the punchline, or isn't that what people want to know?" He says something to that extent, and so I don't know. It could be Two-Face, it could be Joker, it could be the puppeteer. I don't know, as some character, Mad Hatter maybe. I don't know.
I don't think it's Two-Face because he's supposed to be the new DA. So like, I don't think it's Two-Face. I think it's Joker, but. That's another nitpick, but it doesn't affect the movie at all. It's just, I wanted this to be in the Joaquin Phoenix universe, that it's not. Because, Thomas Wayne is not the same Thomas Wayne in the other movie.
Yeah.
And I want to see more of that Joker because that Joker was amazing and stuff like that. It's just, oh man, like I'm just, DC, please. I know it's not a big deal, but can we just get some continuity? Like just a 10 years. Just give me 10 years of continuity that I don't have to be bouncing around looking for other characters to play the same role over and over, get the same origin story, get the same, like, please, just give me, if we're gonna stick to this, sign Robert Pattinson, sign all these characters for a 10-year deal or 3-movie deal, whatever, right? And let me get some continuity. Because that's their thing, I know they're building a DC universe, but they're doing it so bad, and it's like,
yeah, it's very wacky.
The only thing holding it together is the Flash. That's the only thing, and I'm not even hyped for the Flash. Like I'm not a Flash fan, but I mean I will watch because Michael Keaton will show up. But that's it. It's just I just need some continuity. Like please,
yeah,
give me something. Like they should have kept Batfleck, but he doesn't want to do it. I understand things have to be changed, but if things have to be changed, let them just keep going. Like we'll believe it.
But all right, everybody, that will be it for our discussion of The Batman. Hopefully, you guys go out and see the movie. If you've already seen it, and if you see this video on YouTube, feel free to comment, and I'll definitely be going and reading the comments and talking shop with y'all. But thank you, Broly, for hanging out and discussing this with me. And we'll see you guys in the next movie discussion. What's the next one we're gonna be talking about? Is Doctor Strange that close?
Probably Sonic.
Is Sonic before Doctor Strange?
Yeah, Doctor Strange is in May.
Yeah, I think it's
either.
We'll
talk about Morbius.
It's either Sonic, maybe Morbius, but I feel like we could. I just need to do a little bit of research beforehand, but we could.
Michael Morbius for sure.
Yeah, but all right, everybody, that's us signing off. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out. Later. Peace. Bye.